SnowTrax is sponsored by Ski-Doo. What matters is what's next. Yamaha, conquers snow. And by FXR Racing, full throttle addiction.
Yamaha is celebrating their 50th anniversary in the snowmobile business this year. On this week's episode, we're going to take a look at where Yamaha came from, what they've accomplished and achieved in their 50 years, and where they might be headed in the future.
Yamaha were the third major Japanese motorcycle manufacturer. And this early film of one of their factories shows the technology and semi-automatic assembly lines.
Going back to Yamaha's early days in this industry, you'll find a motorcycle company with exceptional engine manufacturing capability launching into a marketplace which had no roots in the company's country of origin. In fact, even today, of all the power sports products Yamaha builds, snowmobiles are probably the most different products they manufacture. In the 60s, when Yamaha entered the snowmo biz, the competition was enormous. At that time, there was as many as 120 different OEMs fighting over what would ultimately become a 1 million unit business. Obviously, Yamaha had a lot of advanced technology for that time in history, which had been developed primarily for the motorcycle industry. The company's two-stroke engines were bulletproof, reliable, and outperformed the competition. There was one piece of technology which Yamaha used to set their motorcycles apart from the competition that the snowmo biz had never seen before. What was that technology? Automatic oil injection for two-stroke engines. Moving into the 70s and 80s, Yamaha became synonymous with impeccable build quality. In fact, the company produced such high-quality snowmobiles, they were literally without comparison. Never-seen-before technology was infused in the Yamaha snowmobile lineup. Features including gas shocks, molded rubber tracks, long travel rear suspension systems, CDI ignition, match die molded fiberglass body parts, and the expanded use of aluminum throughout their snowmobiles was Yamaha's exclusive turf. I remember expounding on the pages of SnowTrax magazine how Yamaha snowmobiles were so advanced they literally defied comparison. If there was a definitive snowmobile which propelled Yamaha to full credibility in the snowmobile industry, it was the Enticer series of sleds, debuted in 1978. They thoroughly and completely outperformed the competition.
What really separates the Yamahas from the competition are their remarkable speed and round-trip reliability.
As the 70s turned into the 80s, Yamaha needed the next step to keep their customers coming back to showrooms. The next step arrived in 1984 in the form of the now legendary Yamaha Phaser. The snowmobile earned the nickname Darth Vader for its futuristic looks. Powered by a 52 horsepower fan-cooled engine, the Phaser sold like ice cream on a hot day, and it continued to define Yamaha snowmobiles throughout the 1980s. In the early 90s, Yamaha struggled with a product line based on the TSS, telescopic strut front suspension, first seen on the Phaser. While the industry went crazy for Indy triples, Yamaha then debuted the SX series, using trailing arms and two-stroke triples.
If you have a taste for excitement on the performance cutting edge, your snowmobiles have arrived. Focused, uncompromising, high-performance hardware from Yamaha.
Inasmuch as the SX Yamahas were much closer to the mainstream than anything the company had built in over a decade, there was something brewing in Hamamatsu which would literally change the sport of snowmobiling. During the years Yamaha was building two-stroke powered snowmobiles, pretty much every other powersport product the company manufactured was moving, rapid fire, to four-stroke power. Rumblings of a Yamaha four-stroke snowmobile began to surface by Y2K. Then it happened. In model year 2003, Yamaha dropped the equivalent of a Moab, the mother of all bombs, with the all-in, full-on, melodious and powerful RX-1 four-stroke. Building the first production, widely marketed four-stroke snowmobile is indelibly etched on Yamaha's 50-year reputation. The RX-1 represented not just a shoehorning of a giant four-cylinder four-stroke engine into an existing chassis, but a move to a fully integrated double-A-arm cast bulkhead platform using the tunnel top to cool a beautiful rear-exiting 4x2 tuned exhaust system. The technology the company developed for this all-new sled was staggering, and the response from the market was immediate. Yamaha continued to intro four-stroke models and engines, ultimately eliminating two-strokes from their brochure. Sales were good through the mid-00s as the company gained credibility and loyalty with their four-stroke program. By the end of the 00s, the entire snowmobile industry was struggling to respond to the Ski-Doo Rev and Rev XP platforms, introduced rapid fire immediately after the RX-1 and the next generation Apex. Clearly, the pressure was on the other OEMs to introduce updated chassis to counter pressures Ski-Doo put on the industry. What happened next was truly remarkable. In 2013, Yamaha entered into a cooperative production agreement with Artic Cat, bolting Yamaha engines into modified Thief River Falls snowmobiles branded as Yamahas. As we now look ahead to the third decade of the new millennium, it appears pretty obvious Yamaha will continue to produce some of the world's most potent, high-performance snowmobile engines, like the new 180 horsepower 998 Turbo Triple. However, it would also appear increasingly obvious Yamaha will continue to work, and possibly in a substantially larger way, with Artic Cat to develop made-in-America snowmobile technology using legendary Yamaha engines. Polaris has created some serious excitement for model year 19 in a segment that traditionally doesn't generate a lot of excitement. Let's drill down on the motivation behind Polaris's introduction of the all-new Indy Evo. There's little doubt the cost to get into snowmobiling can be prohibitive. In fact, most new snowmobilers purchase a used sled for their first ride. These new participants are increasingly important to ensure the future of our sport. However, building and targeting an all-new entry-level sled is tricky. It's been tried before with limited success. Interestingly, it's not just new snowmobilers Polaris is targeting with the introduction of the new Indy Evo. It's younger riders and riders who may be intimidated by a full-on 600 class trail sled as their first ride. The Indy Evo answers the call, drawing from a number of potentially lucrative market opportunities. The need for an unintimidating, low-cost family sled which can keep up with regular trail sleds on an all-day ride is something the market currently does not offer. The need for a stepping stone sled for smaller riders graduating from kids' sleds is huge. Finally, the need for a snowmobile which can keep up on all-day rides and comfortably fit smaller adults is another demographically significant opportunity.
I think the way to think about Indy Evo is that it really has a broader appeal than anything else out there on the marketplace, because what it is a real trail snowmobile designed for new riders. So it's not a yard toy, it's a real trail sled, and that hasn't really been done. What we did with that Indy Evo was we changed the ergonomics to fit a broader range of riders, all the way from the hand position to the overall stance of the sled to make it feel more stable, to a speed limiter that limits it to 50 miles per hour so that it's less intimidating for new riders.
The most intriguing part of the Evo is the deliberate and effective rejiggering of the sled's ergos to accommodate different size pilots. This is at the very core of the sled's appeal.
The Indy Evo is appealing to new riders because it makes snowmobiling more accessible. So think about it, if you didn't grow up snowmobiling, even if you're an adult, but say a smaller person or someone who's less confident with power sports, Indy Evo provides a very accessible entry point into snowmobiling so that you can see how fun it is in an easier way than it might be getting on some really high-performance 600 or 800 or bigger snowmobile.
While the Evo is a full-size sled, tweaked to fit smaller riders, Polaris knows some of these smaller riders will be young adults. Here's Chris's take on this market opportunity.
Indy Evo also provides the opportunity for kids or teens that are old enough to ride legally on trail to have an option that they don't have today that's the right level of size and performance. So obviously, whatever state or province you're in, you need to follow those rules and make sure that the person who's riding it, whether it's an adult or a teen, is properly safety trained and has the right credentials to be able to get on the trail. But we think that Evo will be able to appeal to a broader range of people in that respect as well.
We had the opportunity to drill down with Polaris product manager Marty Sampson on what makes the Indy Evo more than just a chopped up Indy 550.
There's a lot of things that we changed to make it specifically the right size for the riders that we're intending for that sled. And when we say right size for those riders, we're talking about maybe smaller riders or novice riders or somebody that's just getting into the sport that wants a sled that's less intimidating and fits them well from a seating position. It's got a lower handlebar position, a narrower set of handlebars, and even the throttle flipper is a little bit smaller and a little bit closer to the bar, so it fits the hand size of that size rider. We changed the seat and the tank and the console all around the body size, changed some things in the front suspension and the steering. IFS shocks are shorter, which lowers the front end, and then we have a new set of shocks and springs in the rear suspension that also lower that in conjunction with the front to get the balance of the sled right. All sized around getting this sled that's lower to the ground and more confidence inspiring, feeling good for this rider that's new to the sport potentially.
So there you have it, a snowmobile built for new and smaller riders at a price rivaling a used snowmobile. You know what? We think Polaris may have finally hit the nail on the head in this important re-emerging segment.
SnowTrax is sponsored by Princess Auto, a unique world of equipment, tools, and more.
Last season, Artic Cat released their much-anticipated C-Tech 2 800 engine, and it was everything we hoped it would be. Memories of the old Suzuki 800 are quickly fading away. But after such a substantial upgrade to so many models in their lineup, we also figured in 2019 we'd only see minor tweaks and new graphics. It doesn't happen often, but this time we were dead wrong. For 2019, Artic Cat is showcasing two very important pieces of new technology, and this stuff isn't minor. This is big. iACT is what Artic Cat is calling their electronically controlled Fox IQS shocks on the front of the sled and on the rear track shock.
So the iACT system, it's a new suspension system that we've kind of co-developed with Fox. Fox has been working on the IQS shocks. We took that shock and we developed a shock control module to work with it, to control it, and to tie it into our gauge and our engine ECU. Kind of like a step up from the QS3. QS3 was a big hit, quick, simple, easy, and we wanted to kind of pigtail on that. And now it's all electronic and it's a push button at the handlebar. Comparing this shock mechanically to the QS3, all essentially right in that cartridge that's in the reservoir. So what you're doing is just controlling that displaced fluid with a stepper motor instead of a manual clicker. So this system reacts from full soft to full firm in 0.2 seconds. Very simple. It's displayed on the gauge and it's right at your thumb. So all you have to do is just toggle left for softer, right for firm.
iACT's system works in conjunction with a brand new set of sleek digital handlebar controls that replace the decades-old units we're used to. The new controls are smaller, easier to operate, and have the ability to control the gauge functions right from the handlebar. Heater controls are now 5-step digital, and on 2-stroke models, the reverse button now doubles as the electric start button. Using the iACT system is so intuitive and easy. Simply push the center of the uppermost button on the left-hand control module to access the iACT settings and the screen on the left side of the gauge. Then use the same button, but this time with its left and right rocker function to select between soft, medium, and firm. I think this technology is as big a step forward as the QS3 shocks were only a few seasons ago. In reality, QS3s aren't that impressive when it comes to suspension technology, but they're revolutionary in that they take the complexity of suspension adjustment for the average user. iACT simply takes that simplicity and makes it infinitely more convenient. Where in the past, most people really wouldn't stop on the side of the trail to adjust their suspension as the day wore on, now, with iACT, you can and likely will adjust your suspension dozens of times throughout the day as conditions change. It's effortless and effective, and a truly usable piece of new technology. The next big piece of news from Artic Cat comes in the form of a totally new, completely out-of-the-box mountain skid frame Artic is calling the Alpha 1.
So Alpha 1 is actually the name for the track and suspension system. That's what's new, that's what's unique. This idea was just a concept, that we started with a long time ago.
The concept of the Alpha 1 is over a decade old, but the purpose of this system has remained the same the entire time, as has the list of benefits.
We wanted it to be light, taking the cross shafts off, making a single beam that's hollow and strong and stiff. The beam, doesn't have any cutouts or holes or things that the snow can grab onto and build up and stick to, increase maneuverability. And then along with that, when it's rolling over, leaving the track in contact with the snow, so you get traction and flotation with the ease of maneuvering.
One of my first thoughts when I saw the Alpha 1 was how can this be durable enough to withstand the abuse of a normal mountain rider?
We have a really good reputation for durability. So when we designed the beam, it's only one beam, but it's a closed shape, it's hollow, it's got more stiffness, it's a boxed in closed section. So it's been optimized for bending in all directions. We expect the durability to be as good or better than our traditional suspension.
The big question on my mind after seeing it was, does it work? And after riding it, I can confidently say that yes, it does. Getting the sled on its side is unbelievably easy. Maneuverability on the mountain also seems excellent, and there's no question you can feel the reduction in weight, both from the actual weight savings of the skid frame and in how little snow this skid frame holds while you're riding. More testing and competitive comparison is needed before I can form a more pointed opinion on the Alpha 1, but I can say that my first impressions are very positive. After riding the iACT system and the Alpha 1 equipped M sleds, I can say with all confidence that there are more reasons for a snowmobile buyer to visit an Artic Cat showroom in 2019 than ever before.
Closed captioning of SnowTrax is sponsored by Triton Trailers, built for adventure.
It's really easy to get super excited about Yamaha's Sidewinder lineup of sleds. A 3-cylinder 4-stroke turbo pushing 200 horsepower, that's enough to make pretty much anybody tingle all over. Sadly, it's the Viper that often gets overlooked in the shadow of the Sidewinder, and that's a shame because the truth is, for the vast majority of snowmobilers in North America, the Viper is all the sled they'll ever need, and then some. For 2018, Yamaha has taken the Viper to a whole nother level of smooth and comfortable with the L-TX SE 50th anniversary package. I have to say, in the world of 4-stroke engines, not just in sleds, but in any form of powered recreation, Yamaha's 3-cylinder Genesis 1049cc power plant is among the best you're ever going to find. It's just so darn smooth and snappy with gobs of low-end torque, almost no vibrations, and an exhaust note I can only describe as heavenly. This is what 4-stroke power is supposed to be. Whenever we talk about engines and power, the question of fuel economy will inevitably come up. And if there's anything about the Genesis 1049 engine that's not nearing 4-stroke perfection, it's that this engine isn't noticeably better on fuel than a comparably powered direct-injected 2-stroke. That's the worst thing I can say about this engine, and it's really not a big deal. The Viper is built on Yamaha's SRV chassis and is suspended on their SR137 rear skid and widely spaced double A-arm SRV front end. For a number of years riding this chassis and suspension setup, I've come to this conclusion. This setup is extremely shock sensitive. What I mean by this is simply that a low quality shock produces a less than impressive ride, and a high quality shock will produce an excellent ride. I realize this doesn't sound like rocket science, but it is important to understand when you're out shopping for a Yamaha Viper. We've tested Vipers with non-adjustable shock packages in the past and have been, let's just say, underwhelmed by their ride quality. This L-TX SE is a whole different story. A full set of Kashima-coated Fox Zero QS3s with rebound adjustment comes standard from the factory. In our opinion, this is the best shock package you can get in this industry right now. On full soft, the Viper's ride is plush and smooth, nearly erasing all forms of trail imperfections from small chatter to medium-sized whoops. If the bumps get bigger, a quick flip of the QS3 adjustment levers will provide increased big bump control and bottoming resistance. I think the third setting is sort of reserved for guys who really want to attack bumpy trails. I rarely use it, but it is nice to know that it's there when you want it and that it's so easily accessible. This stellar shock package combined with the L-TX's 137-inch skid frame makes this one of, if not the best riding Yamaha we've ever swung a leg over. Ergonomically, everyone here at SnowTrax finds the Viper to be more than comfortable enough, yet not without its quirks. A slightly taller seat would be nice, and if you ride with your bars more forward, you will find your knees contacting the key panels more than you like. Other features that come standard on the SE model are the sweet 50th anniversary graphics, the rear tunnel deflectors, and a heated seat. A rear storage bag is something that's standard on all Vipers, and the low windshield, while very cool looking, is something you're going to want to replace just like we did before you even pick the sled up. Every sled has its quirks and areas that are in need of improvement. For the SRViper, one of those areas is Yamaha's tuner ski. The factory carbide runner setup simply doesn't work, so we went on a mission to find a combo of Yamaha tuner carbides that would. For the SRViper, we found a combination of 4-inch carbides on the inside and 6-inch carbides on the outside, gave us the best possible handling characteristics we think you're going to get from this sled in stock form. With that said, we still weren't able to achieve the level of precision we were looking for. So we threw on a set of CNA Pro's new Trail Performance XPT skis. These not only look super cool, but are a vast improvement over the stock tuners. The XPT is a tapered ski design with tipped-up tails measuring 44 inches long and 6.25 inches wide. The 3/4 inch deep mid-center keel is mated up with a 6-inch shaper bar from Studboy. With this ski setup, turn-in is precise, cornering is predictable and confidence-inspiring, and push is almost non-existent. Basically, these skis make the Viper handle as good as we've always known it should, and we think they're a small investment for the amount of benefit you gain. At the end of the day, the Viper L-TX SE 50th anniversary is not a budget sled, but we think the higher price tag is much more justified by that stellar set of shocks and additional goodies in the LE package. And in reality, if you're spending this kind of coin on a new sled, that little bit extra for a great quality ski upgrade is going to be well worth it.
SnowTrax has been sponsored by Polaris, see endless possibilities, MBRP Performance Exhaust, race inspired, trail proven, and by Artic Cat, share our passion.
If you've enjoyed this video and would like to see more content from SnowTrax TV, click the like button and subscribe to the SnowTrax TV YouTube channel.